What's up, everybody? It's Ivan with Trouts Fly Fishing, back with 5 flies for February with Tanner Smith. He's back. And, of course, special guest, Landon Mayer. Landon, welcome to the program. How are you?
Pleasure to be here, man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. We're going to talk about some February fishing, what you guys like about it. You know, we're basically, I don't want to say it, we're getting close to spring.
Yeah.
Days are getting longer.
First of all, I want to thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Always
pleasure.
being first class, so we appreciate having you on. You're
thank you.
The man around here. So
Right.
Same to you guys.
You've always been good to us, so we appreciate that a lot.
Of course.
My pleasure, man. No, you guys are taking it to the next level. Happy to help, and we're all a big family, man.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Not
For
to
sure.
get too sentimental. You know, but,
I love you guys.
I didn't know that Tanner was going to start off by crying.
but here we are. You know.
But here we are.
Yeah.
We're here, man.
Do you want some tissues, bud? Yeah.
Cut.
Yeah. So while Tanner composes himself, we'll talk to Landon about what he likes about, like, what do you like about February fishing? What's on sort of your game plan for February? Like, what are you looking to do this time of year? Like, what do you take advantage of?
I love it, man. February for me is always the promise of spring.
Yeah.
So just, hunting and stalking, looking in waters, knowing that it could be a zero hero event. You might have fish staged in runs, fish that are moving about, but I like that premise. And also warmer days, you start to see little sneak peeks of more activity. The fish are getting more active in the water, maybe some more bugs coming out. And just some warmer days. We get those 70-degree days here, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's almost summer.
Right.
That's when someone inevitably comes to me like, hey, I'm heading to the high country. I'm like, yeah, just because it's 70 in Denver, it's still 12 degrees on Long's Peak.
Exactly.
Tanner, what do you like most about February fishing?
Same thing. I mean, it's warming up. We're all excited about that. You get those really warm days, and you know that the good season is really coming. But I mean, there's still those winter days when you can go grind out and have just as much fun. So it's all a nice little mix and change up. But the warm days are very nice when you get out of the car and don't have to put endless layers on to motivate yourself to go fishing. So
Right. We should note, and I'm not going to jinx it, but SP, the old snowpack, is doing pretty well right now. Yep. We've had a pretty good winter of snow, and hopefully that continues on through March into April, and we're set up well for the summer, and have good water for this year. So we don't want winter to leave quite yet. We want it to still do its work, but It's always good to get a little bit of a warmer day, get a sneak peek. I mean, we've thrown a streamer on here because there's opportunities to throw streamers this time of year.
There's hope.
There's hope, right? Right. You're not just stuck with the nymphs.
It's
which,
the hope
nymphs
season.
is great. But,
the hope season.
Right. So let's get to it. We're going to talk 5 flies for February. So surprise, we're going to start fly number 1, and it's actually 3 flies. So it's 3 variants of the Landon Mayer special, the go-to for a lot of us around here at the shop. So we have the original mini leech, the jigged mini leech, and then the jigged radiant mini leech. Landon, we had actually a question in the comments from last month about when you use weighted versus non-weighted. Can you talk about first the fly design, why what inspired you to sort of make it, and then how you like to use all the different varieties, and especially this time of year when we have cold weather, but you have some water temps starting to warm up a little bit. So
thanks for having those. It's the leech family. You nailed it too in order, and it started with the mini leech. Believe it or not, I was up with John Barr on the North Platte in 2004, and we were fishing with the Hamrick brothers, and we were fishing a slump buster, and the fish were crushing it. I mean, that fishery has so many amazing opportunities of big fish. You judge a day not by length but pounds, right?
Right.
One of those fisheries. So by midday, we noticed the slump buster natural, the wire at the bend of the hook broke. Yeah. And we didn't have any other natural slump busters of that size. So we kept fishing it with the rabbit coming off the eye of the hook. And we were just twitching it through riffles and watching JB work his magic. And Jason's like, man, that thing's incredible. And then I thought, at the end of the day, we were drinking some beers and relaxing Jackson. And I asked Jason, I'm like, man, what do you think designing something like that? And that's when he mentioned micro pine squirrel. So I came back to the South Platte, tied my first one in olive, fished it for probably 3 or 4 years.
Controversial color around here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And it just came to be. It's simplified. It's micro pine squirrel, ostrich collar, flash in the body.
Yeah.
But the Hamrick brothers have a great story behind Wapsie, and eventually Wapsie sent them like an entire giant cardboard box full of micro pine squirrel in various colors, and that's how the Cowboy Leech came to be.
Right.
Gotcha.
So from there it's just progressing forward, and then the weighted version came after the unweighted version, and that was in 2007. Umpqua took the unweighted version, and then in 2010, 2011 came out with the mini leech jig. On a 60-degree jig hook, so
nice.
It's all history from there.
Nice.
It's always leech season, though.
Right. To me, like the mini leech is like akin to the turd, like the Pat's rubber legs.
Yeah.
Like it's a fly that I feel confident throwing on as the lead fly on any rig, no matter the season, right? When do you like to use like the radiant versus the regular jig? What's your sort of thought process there?
It's a good question too. It's I mix it up. So if you watch conventional anglers or bass anglers on their boats, right, they're switching up baits and colors all day.
Yeah.
So the way I start the day out is the mini leech jig, which is olive, black, and brown with a black bead. That's a natural.
Yeah.
And then the Radiant series is more of your attractor. So I'll fish them both within the first 2 hours of any trip.
Yeah.
And the same with midges, mixing colors at the day to find out if they want an attractor or natural. And then once I find if they're on the attractor, I'll stick with that as my anchor fly. And if not, I'll go with the natural. And depth control is key. Like I would rather, in the spring months, I'd probably fish an unweighted leech versus weighted in tailwaters. And then freestones, I'd mix that up and do a weighted leech on the bottom as like an anchor fly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Tanner, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I'm not going to outdo that. Certainly, yes. We all fish those. I have them in every color, so it's a confidence pattern I think for anybody along the Front Range. So
right.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you to you.
Thank you to you.
Yeah, thanks for being on, but mostly thanks for this fly.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, man.
Right.
Appreciate it. I'm thankful it's, the idea of the fly coming to be is what I'm thankful for. You know, it's designing flies for me was not designing the fly to make it something that's going to be sought after in the bend.
Right.
It was just for guiding.
Right.
I needed a fly like when days are really rough and you're like, man, there's got to be something.
Right.
Come up with a pattern. That's why it's always leech season, man.
Right.
High water, low water, dirty or clear water, and every season of the year you can fish them. So
for sure. Yeah. If you were to choose one color, your favorite color, what color would it be?
Hold on, let me go get a notebook really fast. Let me write this down.
Yeah.
The go-to color, this may surprise you. So the go-to color for unweighted is brown.
Okay.
That's the all-time go-to color for me. For the weighted version, it's a tie.
Yeah.
It's the black and purple.
Okay.
Because purple is the last color lost in the spectrum when you go deep.
That's a good fact right there.
Boom.
And
I
then,
love that fact.
And then white and pink, right? So white and pink came to be because when I'm out on the water, we've all been there. Somebody comes up next to you with a conventional rig and a white tube jig, and you start crushing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you look at your client, you're like, all right, we got to go upriver. Get away from this human being, right? Because they're crushing. We can't do anything. But it's the white and pink, I think, is more like the attractor and the fly that when you throw it in a deep run, especially February, March, when those fish are starting to become aggressive. Yeah. So it's a tie for those, but that's black and purple and pink and white.
So you'll sort of cycle through as the day starts, trying to figure out what they're keen in on, changing like every 15, 20 minutes or?
Yeah, 15, 20, but mainly changing for light conditions.
Okay.
So if it's bright in the morning, I'll go natural. If it's real dark, I'll do something bright.
Cool.
And then kind of mix it up throughout the day. If you have a system come through, like, let's say a storm hits midsummer or even in the spring, and then you hit the high pressure afterwards, the attractors can be great. Something they're not eating in the morning, all of a sudden they're like, pow,
I like
afternoon
that.
bite.
I hadn't thought of that.
This is facts.
Right. These are facts right here.
Nothing but facts coming today. So.
Fact counter. Let's get that counter going again.
This is good.
Nice. So there it is. Fly number one, the Mayer's mini leech. Fly number two is Mayer's Mysis. This is available in a 16 and 18. Mm-hmm. You came around the shop a couple weeks ago. Yeah. You were doing a little tying demo and talked to the people about how you like to fish it outside of like Mysis, obviously. Taylor, frying pan, the blue.
Right.
You're going to see them flushing out of those reservoirs below the, into those tailwater sections. But you talked about fishing it in other ways. You want to share some of that?
Yeah, for sure.
Insider knowledge.
Yeah, it's so Mysis for me is high water, low water, dead or alive.
No.
So it's really what I think the fish are keen in on. If the water's high in spring, a lot of the Mysis coming down are alive. They're transparent.
Yeah.
And then later in the season, if the flows drop, and then all of a sudden we get a big storm in the fall, and it kicks up all those dead shrimp.
Right.
I needed a pattern that represented both, and that kind of matched the bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you fish this beyond the Mysis fisheries?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. As an attractor. And the one thing I touched on in the class is that you don't always have to match what the food supply is for that specific fishery.
No.
Right? You can unmatch the hatch or stand alone or stand out in a crowd. And if you fish that as a crustacean, think of how many fish are used to seeing a scud, or how many scuds drift by in a day. And it's just like, shrimp and cocktail sauce in a cup at a party.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm going to dip and get some of that. So that's kind of the thought process. I'll fish that as a lead attractor in a lot of your technical fisheries.
Cool. Nice. Tanner, you been hitting any Mysis fisheries this winter?
Yeah, I mean, few over, Taylor, that's always a trip you got to make for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, having anything Landon fishes, that white leech is deadly Mysis pattern too, I think.
Right.
Maybe not Mysis, but attractor-ish, something that's off.
Something different.
That they're looking for, kind of in that color frame. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're fishing Mysis tailwaters, have those in your box for sure.
Right.
So
It's got that, it's got a little bit of that, what's that material that's over the ridge? Is that I'm not good with materials.
Daddy long legs?
Yeah.
Yeah, the antenna.
Yeah.
The daddy long legs is money. I used to use a pattern. It was Doug Swisher's wiggly hackle. Say that 3 times fast, right?
I can't say it one time.
right. I was gonna say I can't even say it one time slow.
And then I couldn't find it anymore. It just disappeared like all the materials on the market. And I mean, you guys know we all love fishing those giants and some of the tailwaters that have the Mysis. So when Hairline came out with the Daddy's long leg, it's that small micro rubber, and it just gives that movement, breathability along with the ostrich. It really can drive them nuts.
Cool.
Yeah.
There we go. That's fly number 2. All right. Fly number 3 is the Mayer's Tube Midge in red, size 18. This is available in a variety of colors and sizes. What do you like about the Tube Midge? What sort of inspired you to tie it way back when?
Yeah, no, the Tube Midge is a great fly. So this sounds cliche, but it's 100% true. So I decided we were doing a fly fishing course and fly tying class. And it was with the Peak Fly Shop. And I remember doing the class, and then we were seining, and there was, midges everywhere. And you put them in your hand, and they looked like they were encased in something clear. And then we would take the fly that we had in our box and match it to the natural for the clients, right? Yeah. Well, I remember that evening I was thinking, man, we've got to do something else other than thread and wire. I mean, those work. Classics like, Dorsey's Black Beauty. Right. It's a go-to, right? It's a must-have. Zebra Midge, all of those. But then going into the lab, so to speak, at like midnight, tying the flies, and I decided let's try wire and tubing, try to find a fit, a way to really wrap it, and ended up designing it to where the wire was fed into the tubing, 2 wraps at the bend and wrap it forward, and now you have something transparent and encased clear, and it has segmentation. So it's kind of how it was born. And yeah, Umpqua actually, when I submitted it, they hit me back up. They're like, all right, we tore it apart. Like, what's the deal? Where's the thread? Like, there's no thread body, man. It's just Loctite super glue wire and tubing. And sure enough, that's how it was born. It was fun.
Russ over there was freaking out.
Yeah. He's like, what's going on with this? Yeah.
Can I throw this on a Euro for
Yeah, can I Euro this fly? Is it heavy enough?
And see, that one he'd be proud of that
right,
one.
Yeah,
that tungsten bead oversized.
I'm sure I saw that in his box when he flipped it out.
Get it down. Get it down.
This time of year, you like throwing red. What's your go-to sort of midge color for February?
Red with black bead, somewhere around that variation is always, blacks, of course, your Black Beauty. Black and red is pretty much my standard 2, those like what I'm searching for when I'm trying to find fish. Usually, and if you need to change like a brown or something, but red, black, black and gold, those sort of things, standards.
Right.
Keep it simple,
You could throw a little bit of, you could throw some oddities in there.
Right.
You could throw some super bright color stuff out there.
That's the one that's funny. Everyone always goes down that train of like, they go to the bin and they see like some really like bright fly that looks so good tied, and it's like, I'm like, man, just like, why don't you just take a basic black beauty? You'll probably catch more than the really pretty looking fly, if we're being honest, you know.
Presentation,
you know,
presentation and confidence.
Presentation and confidence for sure, but yeah,
I mean that's like
the basics. That's a standard.
That's my put it on my gravestone.
Right.
That's what I think.
Right. I like that.
Presentation and confidence.
Right. And
find flies to give you
if
confidence.
Landon fishes it, you should probably
Right.
also fish it. You
Confidence.
know? Like that's confidence.
Right.
You know?
Right. It could be someone else's confidence that you're like
Right.
stealing, right?
Right. Exactly.
I'm stealing Landon's confidence
Right.
every
Hey,
time I
that's
fish
fine.
that.
You know, there's mojo in
Right.
that for sure.
Right. Whatever gets me some fish in the net, I'm good
Right,
with it.
exactly.
That's a good one.
Cool.
You touched on some good points in that when you did 5 flies with Scott.
Right.
You're talking about simplifying Midge approach. It's huge. It's really important.
Yeah.
Because there's bend flies, and then there's flies that look good wet.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the best ways to learn how a fly is going to be effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tungsten on it. When are you going to use a tungsten versus like using something a little bit lighter weight? Like,
Sure.
what's your theory with tungsten this time of year?
Well, and the unique thing about that fly is when I originally tied it, it didn't have a tungsten bead. It had a white gill tuft at the front, similar to what you see with the Rojo. Yeah. So I'll use tungsten when I need to anchor down. But then a lot of times behind that, I'll trail a tube midge with a gill tuft or a post coming out the back.
Okay.
So that way that's my weight replacing a split shot, and then I have another fly above it.
Right.
And I'm
Sort of
hitting
floating in
different
the
depths.
multiple zones.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes
But you
sense.
have to wait. The thing about it, you know, depth control, a lot of times anglers, when they talk about fishing nymphs, they're trying to descend down as fast as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
But like in the winter seasons, February, for so to speak, it's a longer drift with less weight. You'll achieve the depth you need, and it's a more natural approach. So when the fish sees that coming in, if there's no split shot, it looks like a floating.
It's not just going.
Right. Right.
It's going.
Right.
That makes sense.
I mean, I would encourage people, I mean, on that point, to like watch your drift. Like in the winter when it's low and clear and you're like fishing somewhere like Deckers at a Dream in a deep pool and you have a clunk of weight on you, like watch it like plunk, plunk, and you're like,
Absolutely.
that's not,
Right.
Yeah.
that's not going to be that effective, you know? Like you might get down, but it's like,
I also
not
think
down effectively. You're just
I also think if you like
snagging.
if you haven't done this, I think it's probably. I remember doing this with Phil,
Right.
our good friend Phil Torello.
Another wizard.
Another wizard, another wizard, especially with sight fishing, is like, so when I first moved here, I wasn't very good at sight fishing. I wouldn't say I'm very good at sight fishing now, but I'm better than I was when I moved here, right?
Of course.
Because there's more opportunities to do it here, and I would like, first of all, going with somebody who can see fish, and then sitting by them, and if they're cool enough to let you like annoy them, just like, hey man, I don't see that fish. What do you see? And then try to tune into that. But then he also would like throw something big and gaudy, like something like if you like threw a white mini leech or something like that, and you can then see how your drift progresses through a run, and so you know sort of where your bugs are, like what zone are they in, what are they like, how are they drifting down, are they catching, are they drifting down free, and that can sort of open up a little bit, like, because then you can take that information and apply it to when you're throwing more natural stuff, and sort of use that same sort of timing or like I don't know exactly how to describe it. You can basically sort of extrapolate that information to other flies and how it's going to react in the drift. I think that's one of the keys that I found when I first moved here, was like trying to imagine what my flies are doing.
Right, because then you have confidence to know you're fishing to the fish, you know? Like so many times you see people get in a habit like, hey, that fish just isn't eating. It's like, that fish probably would have ate something you had on. Chances are you just didn't even get it really near.
In the zone.
Yeah, get it close.
Near where he even was, you know?
Because a lot of times those fish aren't moving. Like,
the fish is here and your flies just keep getting the current and over here. It's like the fish isn't eating.
And every once in a while, a fish will move, right? We've all seen them move longer distances than we expect, but for the most part, they're going to be, especially in the weather, they're going to be sitting, ice cream cone.
On their head, man.
That's a big. I like that ice cream cone. I'd eat that ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about it too, like when you
Scoop.
do an attractor fly like that, one of the things I've always tried to teach my clients, and in working on some of the sight fishing projects in the past, it becomes a tracking device.
Yeah.
So if you're tracking an indicator or fly, once it's in the zone and you see the depth and you have a trailing fly that's a natural, like you can even do that with the Mayer's Mysis up on the tail, or trail something small behind. Once it's in their zone and you see the reaction, that's how you can gauge if you need more depth.
Right.
And then that leads you to build like the tier system we all know, like with split shot.
Right.
You know, like a number 4, it's going to give me about 2 feet deep.
Right.
I can add another shot or do more weight, but yeah, it's huge. Visualizing all of that that's what makes sight fishing so fun. It's not just seeing the fish.
Right.
You're visualizing every every single step along the way.
Right.
And that skill can apply then to fishing a free swim where you're not sight fishing, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is how deep this shelf is, and then it's going to drop off this deep.
Totally.
Like, what do I need to do to get my fly to creep off that shelf and like all those fish sitting down there?
Right.
Like, how can I get it down there?
Yeah.
And so you might not be able to see your fly doing it, but you can
Visualize.
Right.
visualize what
Yeah.
you're doing.
It's like you see it without seeing it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's just like, the confidence.
Third eye, man.
Right.
We've all got that third eye, man.
Right.
You gotta have
Some the third eyes are better than others.
Right.
My third eye sort of stinks sometimes. Yeah. But
Just
every
make
once
sure
in a
it's
while.
polarized. Make sure it's polarized.
Right. That's why I wear 2 pairs of sunglasses. I just have one pair back here, one pair back there for the third eye.
Exactly.
Cool. So that's fly number 3. We're gonna get to the question answer portion of the podcast. Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, so we're going to start the question and answer portion of the podcast. First and foremost, the prize packs have been upgraded. We're getting stuff from Rising, Umpqua, and I believe Sims is going to throw some stuff in as well. So we'll have details on that shortly. If you have any questions for March, please leave them down in the comments below. We pick 2 to 3 questions every podcast, and whoever's questions we pick gets the prize pack. We're also throwing a Trouts hat as well. So a lot of great questions from the last podcast, and we're going to answer a couple of them. Let's start with the first one. And I'm going to apologize for name pronunciation to start off. Let's just get that out of the way right now. My apologies to Tubby Moa. His question was specifically for Landon, so Tanner, you can shut the fuck up. No, you don't answer this question at all.
Nope.
I've started fishing a longer leader and tippet tandem. I noticed there's times when the fish strike is very subtle, and I'm trying to determine if I had an eat. I find myself setting on subtle twitches to my strike indicator, and it's a fish. Is there a strategy you use for detecting super subtle strikes easier whether it's an indicator selection or depth changes? So basically, how do you detect super subtle strikes? Do you use a specific kind of indicator? Do you have a certain sort of depth to your flies? If I'm understanding that correctly, what's your Tanner? Mute the mic. No,
Tanner, chime in anytime you need to, brother. No, it's a great question, and it's a challenge we all are faced with.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you're nymphing, even when I'm out with clients, the clients lift up and there's a fish. You're like, oh, thank God. That's a good one, right? We've all been in that scenario. I like to adjust based on how subtle the strike is by adding more tension to the drift.
Okay.
So throughout the drift, instead of it being drag-free, because in my opinion, nothing's drag-free. There's always current, there's always tension, there's always movement. So I like to swing flies in most regards when I'm trying to nymph. So the first half of the drift can be drag-free, so to speak, but then start adding tension. And by adding weight, you can apply more tension.
Yeah.
So instead of always mending, try swinging flies through those zones, and then you'll see the take through the indicator. You can feel the take. On Euro rigs, you can see the sighter move. All those little subtleties are things you want to look for. And I think tension is the key to big answer there. Yeah. You can also start setting it up to where you have your lead fly can be unweighted, your trailing flies weighted. Mm-hmm. So that way you're anchoring your whole rig down instead of having the back end of your fly up and suspended in the water. Because if your anchor fly is first and that trailing fly is higher in the column, it can be swirling around and the fish take it, shake their head, chew some bubble gum, spit it out. And it happens, as we know, in seconds when you're sight fishing. Right. They take it and it's gone.
Sort of like a pseudo drop shot style, like has like elements of Euro in it where you're getting a little bit of like that tight line.
Sure. And you can be versatile. I mean, I remember back 15 years ago asking Ed Engel, one of my mentors, and John Barr, all these great legends of the South Platte River, Roger Hills. And, Ed always said, well, I've tension drifted my whole life, whether it be tension drifting where I'm swinging like I would for steelhead, or whether I'm doing tension deep in the run like I would Euro. Right. Because adapting and adjusting your depth and then being able to see the strike is key.
Because strike indicators haven't always been around.
Not always, yeah.
I mean, bobbers.
Yeah, bobbers, strike
fly
indicators.
Fly fishing bobbers.
Yeah. And simplify that too. The thing about strike indicators, they're very useful. Yarn's super sensitive. Pat Dorsey's rig is awesome. It works well, especially in calm, non-windy conditions. The clear thingamabobbers is what I live by. I love that dirty water bubble on the surface. You can do pinch on. There's so many variables, but the key is to make it match and look natural.
Right.
You know, something that's not going to spook the fish.
Tanner, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I would.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, no, for real. If you want to.
I was just gonna say, I mean, keep the line. I mean, have that tension in there, but also if you see that indicator move at all, I mean, set the hook, right? I think that's what you're doing, what you're supposed to be doing if you're doing that. I mean, any movement, there's nothing wrong with setting the hook at all, you know.
Yeah.
So
on tailwaters especially, right? Like, you never know.
Right.
Yeah. When you do set, be soft.
Right.
Right.
Don't hit it hard so you spook it.
Right.
Right.
Unless you're like fishing to a very specific fish.
Yeah.
And then I would imagine you'd want to know that your flies are in the zone before you just let it rip on a set.
Sure.
You know, unless like, hey, maybe there's just a bunch of fish down there and they're all huge. That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
That would be cool. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying
that's a
like
fact.
Hammer the set
would be cool.
Like if the you're seeing some action, I mean, set the hook. You know, make the movement. You might be hooked up. You are going to be hooked up way more than you think you are. You know.
Right.
That's a great point.
So you have
stops, like it doesn't even have to move. Right. Just stops or pauses. Anything unnatural. It's a good point.
It's like, you're like, oh.
So you have the two dumb guy answers and you have the smart guy answers. So Tubby, there you go.
Hey, I'm sure you see it, on guide trips all the time, right? It's like,
yep.
You know, the people are like, oh, they'll just set. They're like, I got one. You're like,
when in doubt.
You're like, thank God.
Right? Yeah.
when in doubt, throw the set up.
Right.
Yes.
You know, are you answer the phone guy? Do you go answer the phone? Like, what do you tell clients? Answer the phone. Hammer a nail.
I tell them lift.
Lift.
So like if a fish takes, I think the term hook set is super, super challenging. It's a tough word to say because to me, I think about Bill Dance, right? When I was a kid watching that, back on the heels, right? Like get that sucker. But when you're dealing with trout and specific subtleties and selective fish, lethargic conditions like February would be, if you lift and you stop your arm, rod, everything in front of the plane of your shoulder, when the fish reacts by head shaking, your arm becomes a shock absorber. Right. But once you break the plane of your shoulder, all the pressure goes through the rod down to the tippet, and that's the breaking point.
Yeah.
So I think the lift is a much better word to be used, but most people go by set.
So are you saying that there's not going to be a big white hat with a T on it on your head when you're up on the South Platte? You're not throwing the big sets on there? Who you wearing?
Oh, there will be. Yeah. In the summer, right?
Yeah.
When we're throwing chubbies.
Right.
Right. Lay it to them. Sock it to them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so hard not to in those situations.
Absolutely.
Wait.
Wait for it.
Yeah. Damn it. Too early, you know?
Yeah, those are my favorite moments.
That's true therapy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You see him, you're like, oh, what am I doing? You know?
That's the best.
There we go. So thank you, Tubby, for that question. We'll shoot you an email or shoot us an email, Yvonne@troutsflyfishing.com, and we'll get you that prize back. All right. Question number 2. And this one's a loaded one, but we're gonna venture into this world. So Redbird963 asks, what is the rule of thumb for the acceptable amount of distance between you and another angler on the water in Colorado? I'm planning on doing some fishing later this year in your area and want to make sure I don't ruffle any feathers with other anglers. I feel like if Redbird's, I'm going to interject a little bit. I feel like he's asking the question. He's already on a good path, right? He's already thinking about it.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
What do you guys think? Is there a rule of thumb for you guys? Is it water dependent? What do you guys feel like?
What do you think, Dan?
I mean, give space for sure. I think it is water dependent. You know, there's certain places like our busy tail waters. I don't think it has to be a ton of room, but be aware, you know, like if you see someone working at like the Dream Stream, like, and they're on the other side of the bank, don't walk directly on the other side and like looking in, like give them, like there's nothing wrong with, you want to get to the run below them, like give them a 15-yard walk around, like where you're not interacting with that run at all, you know. If it's a free zone for me, I'm like kind of old school. If I see someone in the parking lot while I'm going to get up, like just have a conversation. It doesn't like, hey, which way are you going? You want to go upstream? Cool, I'll go downstream. Yep. If you see someone upstream at the Arkansas River, go fish downstream. You know, those are, you know, give space, create space. I don't know. Tailwaters are always going to be iffy, but if someone's fishing, like don't fish by them, basically.
Yeah, that's great. I agree. I used to tell my clients 50 feet,
right?
You know, but then I started analyzing when you're on the water. It's like a giant chess game. Like where is somebody fishing? Where are you fishing? So I like to do the high low hole. So if somebody's fishing the next run up, I'll leave it open.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
or like you're saying on the Freestone, are you moving up or down river?
Right.
That way, somebody while they're fishing, you're leaving them be, but then you're giving them space to move and hunt.
Yeah.
Right.
And the more people moving and less people concentrating on a run for hours,
Yeah.
Right.
the less wary the trout are going to be. So
100%.
I think, and it's a great question. I mean, that's a great starting point.
Yeah.
That should be a question asked wherever you're going to fish.
Right.
What's proper etiquette, distance,
Yeah.
and you know, if somebody says 5 miles, you're in trouble. Like 5 miles.
That's what's going to happen if you see us. Probably.
Right. I think one of the
See
things
Landon at Antero, he's going to be like, yeah, the other side.
Yeah.
You know, you're good at the other
Right.
side.
Right.
That bluff on the other side's awesome.
Yeah. You get the south side. I'll take the north side, bud. Yeah. I think one of the things I've learned from like Scotty D,
Right.
like everyone loves Scotty D, right? He's maybe one of the nice, like president of the Nice Guy Club, right?
Right.
He communicates with anybody.
Right.
Like he will at Decker's obviously super busy.
Yeah.
He is not afraid to go have a friendly conversation with anybody who's fishing. Like, hey man, do you mind if I slip in up here? Are you like, which way are you fishing? Have you fished that already? Like, do you like having that like really genuine, honest conversation with somebody, just like setting the stage as opposed to just sneaking up.
Totally.
Like the sneak up
Right.
when you're the one fishing. I feel like even if you haven't fished it all, even if you've already fished it already, it can be like, could put you at like get you a little annoyed, you know, get you on the wrong side of happiness.
Yeah, like or like the hurry up, you know, you
Right.
see it all the time. Like you'll be in a parking lot and you'll be
Right.
waiting, and someone will pull in and be like, already rigged up, like grab everything and
Right.
like look at you and just like rip down to the hole. You're like,
It's like the sack race.
Right,
It's
right.
like-
I'd rather just take
Yeah.
it easy, see where they go,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
figure out somewhere else.
It's
to
like,
go.
hey man, if you'd have just been like, hey dude, I was gonna hit this,
Right.
I'd be like, cool man, I'm gonna go fish the
Somewhere
like,
else.
The run is different. I don't even want to fish where you're going. You know?
Right.
You have
Yeah,
to be
it's like,
flexible.
Right.
I think communication, and not to sound like an old guy,
Right.
but like an old dad, but I feel communication's key. You know, having the conversation. And I think this guy Redbird 963, starting the conversation before he's come out here, like what's appropriate. I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah,
Asking that question when you're on the river. If you go to one of the tailwaters, like just having a conversation with people, I think can go a long way. So we're all trying to have fun out on the water, catch some fish, have our space, get some time disconnecting from the real world and all that stuff. So I feel like one of the things you don't want to disconnect from is just regular conversation.
Yeah. It's
I don't
all
wanna-
in fun, man.
Yeah.
It's
So
all in fun.
right.
Until you ask them what fly to use. Like,
Right.
what fly are you using?
Secret.
Secret.
The
Tanner,
Cody
what,
Smith
what midge
special.
are you using,
Yeah.
Tanner?
Landon Mayer, man.
The Cody Smith answer.
Secret.
Secret.
Yeah.
Secret midge.
Secret Midge.
I'm a little disappointed in us. There's we're less fact moments in this one, and we gotta get more facts going. So
All right, fact. Stay away from me if you see me fishing. No, just kidding. Don't do that. Don't put that on there.
I will.
I know.
All right, there we go. That's question number 2 from Redbird. Redbird will shoot me an email, Ivan at Trouts Fly Fishing. We'll get that prize pack out to you. Big thanks, obviously, to Rising. I'm Quentin Sims for supporting this whole little podcast. So question number 3 is from Landon Taylor. He wrote a book, so we can pick and choose from this book what we want to answer. First off, when do you see the waters really start to transition out of the winter style of fishing into more of a spring-summer scenario? Does that transition happen in March or April? What are you watching for during that transition period? So that's one question. And then the second question is, do you have any preferences for tying flies inline versus using a dropper tag for your flies when nymphing? He's started to experiment with the dropper tag and haven't been having as much success, but see the advantage to being able to tie on flies without breaking the whole rig down to be a major plus. So any insight on that sort of stuff? Do you tie inline? Do you tie with dropper tags? What's your
Both. You know, it's true. Sometimes you tie in line and you have way more productive days. And then you tie a tag and you're thinking, oh, it's going to work great. A lot of times when I'm tying a tag, I'm trying to maximize movement from that fly. So for me, when I'm doing tags, a lot of my tag flies are unweighted.
Yeah.
'Cause I want them to move freely in the water column, and then an anchor fly below.
Yeah.
A really cool setup that I learned from Doug Olette over on Pyramid Lake is he likes to tie a streamer as his trailing fly, and then he puts a popcorn beetle as a tag above. so it elevates the streamer off the bottom.
Yeah.
Super cool rig. And that's one of the ways to think about a tag. It can either be unweighted or a floating presence in the water as well.
Yeah.
But it really does depend on depth, in my opinion, depending on how deep you are. You know, if you're inline, you're fishing 3 feet of water, you're manipulating the column up and down. You know, if you're really deep and you're trying to anchor fly to the bottom, that tag can be there. And lastly, I think still waters have more tags for me than inline, which I fish for rivers.
Yeah. Tanner.
I'm going to go with what Landon said on that one. That's good stuff. But
That
I'm
is good
mostly
stuff.
just fishing inline because I'm simple. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
that's why,
It's effective.
Hey,
It can be.
confidence.
But, I mean, I guess the only time we're probably fishing a tag is, if you're trying to get down deep. Just like you said, I mean, trying to get action on a certain fly in a different way, inline, something like that. Sometimes having like a smaller, like midge, like something with a tough, like something that you do want to swim freely, having that on a tag is probably the only time I'm really doing that a ton. So
Cool. There we go.
Boom.
What about the spring summer transit or the winter to spring transition? Water dependent out of, from my perspective. What do you think? What's
I think that varies from place to place.
Yeah.
And I think it also happens more than one time.
Right.
I don't think, it's not like you could go to Dream Stream or the Arkansas River in February down by Salida, let's say, and one day it could be 10 degrees, next day it could be 40, 50 degrees for 5 days, and they could get another cold spell and be right back in winter.
Yeah.
So I think that transition is happening multiple times. I don't think it's just one continual fluctuation, in my opinion. So I'm looking for just spans of nice days together. And then maybe in the middle toward the end of those nice days, you'll see kind of more spring flows, but then be prepared if another snowstorm comes, it's going to be right back to winter. Like rivers can freeze right back over in March. We can still get a ton of cold days. So I don't think it's a continual process. Tailwaters maybe a little more so just because the temps are going to be more controlled and there's usually a bump in flows, but freestones I think are up and down even through April.
through April? Yeah. You're not going to get necessarily freezes in
Right.
April, but you're going to get
really cold.
really
days.
cold for sure.
Cold for sure.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Landon?
Yeah, so it was interesting when I started doing some research for the hunt for giant trout. I used to always think of migration or movement or activity based on temperature, which it is true. Some of the water is frozen, it has to thaw. Well, what I found personally, it's the diurnal cycle of sunlight. As the days get longer, these fish are going to move regardless.
Yeah.
And like Tanner mentioned, like when there's a window and it opens up, if it's frozen and it opens up in a 5-day stretch of heat, those fish are there.
Yeah.
And we always ask the question, well, if there's high water and low water, they're still moving.
Right.
It's dependent on numbers. High water, more numbers.
Right.
Low water, less numbers. But the diurnal cycle of sunlight, once we start transitioning to longer days and those fish have more heat transfer going into the water, boom.
Right.
They're there. I love it.
There's
too,
just
'cause
more sun.
You always ask the question. Like for me, I'm always going up, man, like I hope they're there.
Right.
I really hope
Right.
they're here.
Right.
You know, we know they're there, but it's a matter of please don't be frozen. Please.
Right.
Right. Please be somewhere I can find you.
Yeah.
Please.
For sure.
Yeah. This Landon spells his name with 2 A's.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
That's
there's a
awesome.
little bit difference
I like
there.
that. Hello, Landon.
Landon to Landon right there.
Nice.
I do feel like to Tanner's answer, yeah, I think there's it happens multiple times on those freestones.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I do think, and I'm probably guilty of this, is that once you make it past February, like I just assume, like my mind I trick myself into thinking, oh, it's spring.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, blue wings are going to be popping. It's like, no, I mean, blue wings really start popping like end of March into April. Like big spring midges are going to be more of a thing.
Well, sometimes you can see them in February.
Right, but sometimes you can see in February, and that's my brain just like getting excited for what I know spring can be. But like big spring midges, we're gonna start seeing those like
Fast.
play a bigger role as we get through February and into March, and blue wings will start to pick up, and you'll start to get those subsurface. They'll be fishing subsurface well, but then really like March, April is when end of March, April is when you really see them. But in my brain, it's like March 1. It's spring. Let's
spring.
go.
Yeah.
We're fishing dry flies.
happening.
Let's go.
Well, that's a good point too, because when you're dealing with bugs, especially 30 days prior, so you need to give yourself that 30-day buffer.
Yeah.
So if your caddis are starting to come off in May, you're fishing those subsurface in April.
Yeah.
Because that's when those things are moving subsurface. And then migration, the migration starts after the shortest day of the year in December.
Right.
That's when fish literally will start moving. So it can be as early as January, especially if you have a weird year where you just don't have any moisture. We were there up till the end of December.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, hello, winter.
A little squirrely for a little bit, you know? So, cool. All right, so big thanks for Landon for that question. We'll be reaching out for your prize pack. Before we get on to flies number 4 and 5, Landon, did you want to talk about your new book at all? Because we have that in the shop.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's guide flies. I'm super excited for this one to come out. During COVID 2020, a lot of times we're all going to forget that year.
Yeah.
But for me, that year was great and also challenging beyond what we were dealing with in the world. I decided to take studio action and photograph all the step ties to the book. And my good friend Jay Nichols, he's like, hey, Landon, why don't you do a fly time book and do it in a year, and let's take all the photographs. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I could totally do that.
Yeah.
And as I'm sweating profusely over the studio and the house, like, man, this is horrible. You know,
It's a horrible
that
idea.
mental experience, love-hate relationship. Right. So it all came together, and I'm super, super blessed to be able to have this book come out. A lot of questions I received lately is, did I think of myself as a fly designer? Yeah. And realistically, I did not, especially starting out. My mentor, really good friend of mine, is John Barr. And the reason I say that is not because of the name, but what John would do when he opened up his fly box is it's all his patterns. Yeah. It's incredible. Right. So from a midge to a streamer, any situation.
He has a lot of good patterns.
He has a lot of great patterns. So when I realized that was the case as a guide, I'm like, try to design something that works, you know, and it came together. But the Guide Flies book is step-by-step ties. It's 13 flies I have with Umpqua, 7 flies from other fellow anglers and friends, Phil Trelia, Angus Drummond, Arlo Townsend, Kevin Davidson, Walt Mueller, and Michael Burgess. And these awesome individuals not only were kind enough to donate the flies and the knowledge and recipes, but then they were like, here's the materials, and I had to tie that fly, and I'm like, oh my God.
So generous of them.
Can you please take a video and send this to me so I can tie it correctly? I was calling Phil, I'm like, Phil, like, how do you do the wings of this one? Like, what are you know, trying to get that answer back. But the true testament to the book, in addition to the step-by-step tying, and, you know, kudos to Charlie Craven. He does all the step ties in all of his books personally, the photographs. It's super hard. But in addition to that, Dave Hall was kind enough to do illustrations. Yeah. So my goal in the past, when I would open a fly tying book, I'd learn how to tie the fly. I'd learn the history, how to fish, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. But I always wanted, how do I rig this? So Dave Hall introduced 8 illustrations in the book on how to rig the flies, which I thought was pretty cool. Awesome. So now, you guys are kind enough with your support. I appreciate it. And these projects are a collection of so many people to make them happen. And thanks to everybody involved for the book. But guide flies, easy to tie patterns for tough trout.
Cool.
Which is what we deal with.
It is available in the shop online as well, I believe. So check that out. Let's get to fly number 4 and 5. Fly number 4 is a classic, the Parachute Adams size 20. Also good in 18, also good in 22, also good in 12, 14, 16.
Any size.
8. So we picked some flies. Landon and I walked through the shop, picked some flies, and Landon wanted to make a note about this fly. We're coming up on big spring midge season, coming up on blue wing olive season. What do you like about the old Parachute Adams?
Old school's the new school, right? So many of my clients, the big question I get now, and I'm not exaggerating, it's probably once a week, and it's a great question and thought process. What are the 12 flies I need? Yep. Most anglers get frustrated because they show up, and I've had clients that open up a bag of boxes, and you spend like 30 minutes going through their flies. I'm obviously have fly envy right away. I'm like, my boxes don't look like that, right? So Pat Dorsey's boxes
every time Pat posts a photo on Instagram, you're like, God,
is that Pat's box?
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I've learned is, if you have a fly that can be versatile, that really does help make that selection easier. And the Parachute Adams, I think, is the fly.
Yeah.
That can be a size 20. That's a Baetis. Yep. You drop that down to size 24 and you cut off the tail. That's a midge.
Yep.
And if you need to really get selective, bust out a Copic marker and color the body. Yep. It can be whatever you want, olive, brown, and black. And it's just a standard go-to. For me, it's my go-to dry fly as the lead, even during the trico hatch.
Yeah.
Because when you look at that fly from below, when you teach new anglers, it's what is the trout seeing when that is contrast against the sky. And that could be that hackle palmered around the post. Those are the legs, slim body and a tail.
Yep.
And then for the midge, just cut that tail, make it half the body, and you're still rocking.
Yeah, I mean, most versatile dry fly out there. I think
Yeah.
you covered it pretty well. So, yeah.
Totally.
That is a good
Dave
trick.
Lovell taught me that trick, the cut off the tail trick.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Now he's
it
selling
really
steel.
does. Yeah. And that post, right?
Yeah.
Like how many times
Drinking beers.
even if you can't, if you can see a fly, you have more confidence.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can't see the fly, you know it's there, and you're like setting on the rise for them.
Right.
And for a client's perspective, they can see that it's night and day.
It's hard to beat the P Adams for sure.
Great.
It's
Great
all
pattern.
like one of those patterns. If I don't have my fly box, like what have I done to my life? You know, I have to reconsider a lot of things.
And to his point, it's, I mean, always, especially if you're fishing even smaller flies, having that as a lead is crazy. You know, I say it to people in the shop all the time. It's like, if you put 2 tricos on size 24s and I was just throwing in a hatch, I'd be setting on fish rising over here, fish rising over there. Like
You don't even know where it landed.
At some point, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like if you're seeing 24s out there, you're landing, or you have way better eyes than me. You know, like
Look,
you're setting, and it's like, oh, you scare the fish because you're.
When we were up on the,
chance, yeah.
we were up in Wyoming. Like there were a couple moments there where like I had a parachute Adams, and I can't remember what the other fly was, but it was like, well, that might be my fly. Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, the fish is big. Who cares?
Right.
But being able to see the fly and knowing where your flies are, I mean, it feels like a must.
Yeah.
It feels like a simple thing to check off the list, but it's like why would you throw 2 24s if you can't see either of them? That's like throwing no 24s at some point. Like it's like throwing no fly and just sort of hoping something's going to work out. Whereas you have something that you can see that will also get eaten. I mean, that's an advantage. So
a lot of your classic patterns, man, are like that too, where they're simplified. But what I found old patterns do is they match silhouette.
Yeah.
New patterns are more realistic with synthetics.
Yeah.
That's why that's so versatile.
Right.
Because back in the day, you didn't have the materials.
Right.
So you had to have a fly that would just maximize the usage all the way through.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Fly number 4, Parachute Adams.
Parachute.
All right, fly number 5 is the double Ganga. We can't go 5 flies episode without choosing a Charlie Craven pattern.
That's
so
true.
It's like we're
facts at this point.
yeah, we're contractually obligated. The contract is with ourselves.
Yeah.
How's it going, Charlie?
He hasn't signed it yet, but
Right.
it's out there.
Right.
Yeah.
One day, Charlie, you'll come on this podcast and you'll tell us we're morons for 50 minutes. It's gonna be great. So double Ganga, I think we all are fans of this pattern. Landon, why did you pick that when we were walking through the shop?
It's, in my opinion, one of the best attracting streamers that I can fish with confidence.
Yeah.
Because it has kind of the tan ginger body, which I love ginger as a color, just a lighter color instead of white. I think
So does Tanner in his beard.
that color.
Yeah.
And then just that yellow tail and those dumbbell eyes. It's got articulation, dumbbell eyes. It's got that laser back with, the bars. It looks like a bait fish. And I just find that a lot of fish, when they're looking for that marabou attractant on the back end is really what captures it. Yeah. So that strip pause. And the thing to remember with streamers, I learned this from Blaine Chocolate. It's huge. And Tommy Lynch as well. These guys just eat, sleep, and breathe streamers. Right. And spending time with them on the water, they taught me that the retrieve is not based on when you're stripping. The retrieve is based on when you pause. Yeah. That's when the fly kicks, like does 90 kick, upward kick, and that's where the tail on the double Ganga just really, that marabou comes to life, and it's so supple. Yeah. It's a great pattern. So, yeah, Charlie did a great job designing this one, man. That's definitely a go-to. And then the silly legs, it's just,
right.
Drives with
just
nuts.
dancing.
Yeah, it's like that. Like Tanner and I were like, man, I would have already eaten that.
Right. I've been staring at it for like.
I was about to say, if you guys watch back through the entire episode, you'll probably just notice that both Landon's eyes and Tanner's eyes are just looking right here the entire time.
The entire time.
I mean, I get it. I love marabou. I think marabou's like, you throw a fly with marabou and has a little bit of flash or a little bit like something. Just needs marabou for me. Yeah. I just love marabou.
It is.
That stuff dances. And it doesn't. And
yellow eyes and red eyes though.
Yeah.
There's something about that's confidence for me. So, and then
Great point. Yes.
You nick them off, and then suddenly they're like gray eyes, and you're like, well, I don't know if this is still gonna get eaten, but it does. But
That's
it's
true.
Right. Those are my confident eye colors.
If you're tying them, that's a great tip. If you're tying at home, just make sure you cover those eyes.
Yeah.
Little Sally's. Yeah. Sally's hard as nails, or little cement or super glue, man.
Yeah.
Give them that extra.
Make them last a
coating.
little longer.
Yeah, it might not matter, but to me it does. You know, that's your confidence is key. So
The rest of this podcast is just going to be spent with us just staring at it.
For a few minutes.
Look
for
at
a
it
few
dance.
hours.
yeah, look at that thing dance.
Why hasn't it got eaten? We should get like a bigger tank with a trout in it.
Oh, boy.
Just one trout. And he
Just
has
one
to
trout.
Eat
Yeah.
whatever we give him.
That'd
Just
be
make
amazing.
this whole piece just. Yeah.
PETA might call us, but
Hey, when I lived with Jeremy and he had that carp tank, man, we would catch those little baby carp.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
And then we flipped one out of the tank one time. I was like, yeah, we got stop. You know? But it was like
Drag and drop.
They got smart so fast. Like,
Really?
Yeah, they would be like, you could feed them like 1 week, and then like after that they'd like, and then you'd like have to like chum them up. You know, you'd feed like put food in there, and then you drop a fly in. You know, and they'd be like, nah. You're like, this carp is like this big.
Right,
Like,
Committed refusal.
yeah. Oh, you would get it, and he'd just be like, nah.
I wonder why he's refusing. I'm standing right next to it with a.
Goldfish.
Yeah.
Goldfish
going
will
on?
eat every time. Goldfish every time. You know, little baby carp. Like once they get caught, they won't eat again, man.
I don't think people expected to get fish tank fishing info on a fly fishing podcast, but here we are.
That's awesome.
You know?
That doesn't have to be
That's
in there,
awesome.
but, like, I just, you know,
What about tetras? What do tetras eat, dude? What do, how about like those fighting fish? What do they eat?
didn't have any of those in there.
Oh, okay. You'll have to report back.
Yeah, probably a streamer though. If you like jigged to like another little line.
I would imagine the fighting fish for sure.
Yeah.
They
Jig
probably
action,
hammer
Every
hammer
time.
red and black. You know,
Yeah.
if you threw like one of the mini the mini Gangas.
Oh, right. I'm sure if it was in there with that, like actually swimming around, it'd be biting that thing like every 3
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
You know?
It'd be
Should
fine.
have put a trailer hook on that.
Triple trailer.
Right.
Triple hook.
There we go. That's fly
Fly number 5.
number 5. Yeah, that's fly number 5. All right, cool. So Landon, thank you so much for coming down.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Where can people find you? You got season starting up. I'm sure you're pretty well booked up. But
Yeah, it's busy, man. I mean, we'll all be at the show together in Denver. The fly fishing show coming up this weekend, 11 through 13. We'll be there. After that, season's going to start soon. I'll be doing some travels down to California and seeing some folks and just literally guiding full time. That's what I love to do. I mean, I love all of this, but I think just staying connected to the water helps so much. And the thing I enjoy about the winter season is we can stay connected to the water via Vice or podcast or things like this.
Right.
Then once it starts to really warm up, it's game on, all in.
Oh, yeah.
You can reach me through the website, landonmayerflyfishing.com. A lot of information there. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Instagram for the AMAs.
Yep.
If you want to see Landon's Bitmoji,
Oh, yeah.
Instagram is the place to see
That's it. It's there. It's happening. And these guys, man, these guys are setting the bar. Like podcast, social media, Instagram.
Let's not go that far.
Yeah, let's not go that far.
Just a couple morons with the.
Just remember that, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Yeah, this is
Joseph Rogan. Cool.
Yeah,
Tanner, where can people find you?
You can find me at Trouts. Yeah, we appreciate having you on, man. You've
Yeah.
kind of led the path for us to even get started, you know. So
Thank you, man.
You're
Yeah.
motivational for us when we were young and foolish on the river, and we're always cool with us.
Hey, we appreciate you
We
not
appreciate
telling
that.
us we were morons
Yeah.
every time you saw us, which you probably could have.
No,
you
not
know?
at all. We all started the same spot, man. It's all a camaraderie and a brotherhood. I respect what you guys are doing, and I appreciate the fact that you support my cause as well, man. Feelings mutual.
Well, we've been talking about doing a Reading Water episode.
Let's do it.
So
That's
we'll,
coming.
tease that for the people.
Look
Maybe
for that. It's coming.
Yeah, at
Reading
some
water.
point. At some point.
It's weird that I'm never included in the Reading Water ones. Is it because I catch no fish?
You were in a
Because
Reading
I'm
Water.
a moron, huh?
You were in a Reading Water one. Excuse me, sir. We actually do have to do. I think a little creek one would be cool with you.
Yeah, we could do that. Whenever.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll be at the show too. Come by our booth.
Yeah.
Landon will
We're like
probably be
booth
the
like
I'll be
4
there.
or 50,
I'll be hanging.
right next to
He's-
right next to Casting Pond 1.
He's the busiest guy at these shows. So
Yeah.
if you like see him racing, stop him, and you know.
Do we have like
I'll
a
be
code
busy.
word?
Yeah, say hello.
Right.
Come
We
to
have
the
a
casting
code
pond and the
word.
demos.
Should we send people out with the code words if they see us at the show, and they can tell us that they saw us on this podcast? They give a code word for them.
Oh yeah, win a prize.
Win a prize like a hearty handshake.
Hearty handshake.
What
You know what we could do? Let's do 3 guide fly books
Ooh,
for the code word.
Okay.
Code word.
So what's the
okay.
code word? Tanner, what's the code word?
Yeah, it's all on you.
Pressure.
Pressure's the code word.
Pressure. Pressure is it.
Pressure.
Pressure. Say pressure.
Yeah.
You know?
So find Landon at the fly fishing show in Denver at the Gaylord Hotel. Say the word pressure
Pressure.
first three get a
First three.
That's awesome.
God bless
Yeah,
you.
that's
Damn.
awesome.
It's happening.
Yeah, this is gonna be good. I
happening.
hope we fulfill all three.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
that'd be sort of a bummer if we did.
And then we'll be talking to somebody. They're gonna be like, "Man, I feel a lot of pressure being here today."
Yeah.
You win a free book.
You use the cover, man. All right, there we go. So appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, you can find us in the shop, both Denver and Frisco, troutsflyfishing.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Drop those comments down below for questions for the March episode. We'll probably have someone from the shop for that. So maybe Zeke, maybe one of the shop guys. Maybe we'll get Scott over here, Kevin. Kevin says he won't do it, which I think is bullshit, but whatever. All right, we'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.
Later. And this is where you go start filming your own commercials. Be like, hey, have you been interested in new health insurance? This is Ivan Orsic.